Hi, welcome to my Module 16 reflection over the case study. What do I know? Well, I know that the school is mainly low-income families. Most of the families have already moved to the suburbs, but these families can't afford it. Many parents are involved with activities at the school. In those activities, there are 4 parents that work the sports events, 2 at the concessions, and 2 at the gate. Mr. Stevens, the principal, is the only one. There's no assistant, so he relies on those parents often for helping with school events and functions. Mrs. Bowman has a daughter selected to perform cheer in a parade, and she has to travel. So she approached Mr. Stevens and wanted the PTA to fund the travel for her daughter and 4 other cheerleaders going. Stevens denied, stating that those funds were meant for the majority of the student body and not just a few people or one specific person. So he did not approve that money to be used for cheerleading. Monday was a game night and there was a very large crowd. Stevens, being the only principal and person on duty at the time, couldn't oversee the accounting and the money aspect of the game. So he talked with an attendee when they walked into the gym, and he said that he had to use a $50 bill. It just came up in conversation, and because he just got paid. So later that night, when he was tallying the money and looking through the 2 accounts, the $50 bill was not present, and Mrs. Bowman, who was in charge of the money, said that there were 10 tickets that she had to discard because they were ripped or torn and could not be used. And the balance of the tickets to the pre-numbered tickets did not add up, so it didn't match. What do we need to know? Is there policies and procedures for what PTA funds can be used for? Where was the other parent who was supposed to be with Mrs. Bowman at the gate collecting money? Why were the 10 tickets that were torn not kept for evidence to prove that they couldn't be used? Were there any larger bills that someone had used, such as 100, where it would make sense to give a 50 back as change? Why did the money and the pre-numbered tickets not add up, and how much money was actually missing, and what was the difference between the 2 numbers? The problem is that there's money missing from the bag. Mrs. Bowman is a likely suspect, and there was not likely 2 people counting the gate money at the end of the night, which sounds like policy and procedure of the school. A plan of action. So the first thing I would do is count the money from the concessions and count the money from the gate to see if that $50 bill turns up in the concessions money. I assume that there were 2 different bags for that, so they could have taken that money and exchanged it for smaller bills at the concession stand. Report to the district office and ask them for their suggestion and help in what to do next. And then I would call in both parents that were in charge of the gate money and ask them why their records did not match up, and then ask them for their records. Maybe they had something different. And then ask those 2 parents about the 10 torn tickets and where they were, where did they throw them away. And then if found guilty for stealing the money, um, proceed with board policy and board action to find a way to resolve that issue. What's best for the students? Well, it's obvious that the principal can't oversee what he needs to because there's 450 students, so they need to request an assistant principal to help him with his duties. Designate one person for events. That could be someone you trust or an assistant principal to make sure that they're popping in and out and checking those sales and admissions. You could possibly use computerized tickets to avoid the loss of tickets when they were torn. That wouldn't happen if you had computerized tickets. And then have policies and procedures in place explaining that ticket process and train those parents or teachers on what they need to be doing and how to keep records. When I was reading through this case study, I was thinking, how could one principal be expected to overlook these events and perform all the school duties? He's alone and he has a lot on his plate. I can see how things would go wrong and why there'd be problems. I was feeling overwhelmed for that principal because he had to deal with this by himself. He might have gotten some input from the district office, but sometimes it's a little easier just to bounce the ideas off of an assistant principal to come to a conclusion. And I value the hard work of the principal. He's doing what he can by himself and using his resources and making sure that things proceed at the school. What we don't know and what's unresolved is who stole the money. Was there actually any money stolen? Why did the principal not count the money with the parents at the end of the night? Will Stevens get any additional help? And how do you know who to hire for extra duty? And how can you trust who you do hire? Being effective and efficient in a management role, in the case study, report that immediately to the district, request help. Procedures and policies, make sure there's clear expectations and make sure that the parents or teachers doing the extra duty know them. And then keep using parents, but offer it to school staff. I didn't talk about them offering it to school staff first. Uh, that might help the situation. Promoting social learning of every students. Well, parent involvement in the school is really important just to keep things running and have those events still go on. Get more help for school events and for the school. They have way too many kids for one person. Following district procedure when questioning about money, you want to make sure that you're not just blaming it on that parent because we still don't know if that parent did or did not. And we don't want to just say that they did and not know for sure. We want to make sure that we go about that in a correct way where they know that we're just trying to find some clarity. Promoting student academic learning. So Mr. Stevens did not use those funds for one student, Mrs. Bowman's daughter, for cheer. Use teachers more for extra duty, and then ask for more help during events and in the school. Find someone that can come and be your wingman and help you look over those duties and make sure everything's going smoothly.